My name is Arin Lindauer, and you're listening to A Life Without Struggle. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 wonderful children, a 2-time best-selling author, and a highly driven and successful entrepreneur. In my 17-plus year career as a mindset and health expert, I know what holds women back from a life you only dream about. Whether you're a CEO, a businesswoman, or executive, I started this podcast because I have been where you are, and I know you want and deserve more out of your life. I believe women are limitless. We just get lost along the way. The process to get you there is the topic and purpose of this podcast. When you understand what you want, you can truly step into a life without struggle. Welcome, and I'm so thankful you're here. Welcome back to another episode of Life Without Struggle. My name is Arin Lindauer, and today is a big day. Today's a really big day. I am recording my 100th episode, and this has been a goal of mine that I set a year ago, and it's here. I'm excited. So welcome to the 100th episode. This may be your first time. This may be your 100th time. I know a lot of you have listened from the very beginning, and it's been a journey, right? And who knew you could talk about struggle, 100 different ways. There's been some overlap, definitely in a lot of topics, but who knew you could talk about struggle 100 times? Now, I'm being funny when I say that because you can talk about struggle the rest of your life. And more on that here in a second, but think about that. We're really good at talking about all the things that have gone wrong. I sit and think about, when you get together with family, sometimes with your friends, think about where the conversation naturally goes. Yeah, we're kicking buns. We're doing great. This is awesome. That is awesome. And then quickly it diverts into, well, this isn't going well. And what about this? And did you hear about so-and-so's health scare? And I just remember sitting at multiple dining room tables just year after year after year around families, in particular family, right? So these are the people you're around. These are the people you love the most. These are people that truly have the influence on you. And I think about how many times did we sit there, did you hear about so-and-so? And I'm sure you guys are laughing going, yep, exactly. We do the same thing at our dinner table. So of course you can talk about struggle. Of course we could talk about struggle the rest of our life. And listen, I sat here in preparation for this podcast, and I was just thinking back to a year ago. What was going on in my world? What was I doing? How am I different today than I am, just 1 year ago? Because when you think about it, a year can feel forever. It's really not. In the grand scheme of life, a year is a blip, right? And I think back to a year ago, what was I doing? What was going on? And a year ago, we were about 6 months into this mental programming course where we were watching videos online. We would get on weekly coaching calls, and we would go to different events. There were different programs that we would go to, and we'd do very deep dive, immersive training for, I think it was 3-4 days, depending on which one we were doing. And whoa, I think back to the Arin then. The Arin then is not even close to the Arin now. And I think about just the lifetime of lessons that I have uncovered and I have just really dove headfirst into. Now, that's not sitting here saying oh, life is easy peasy, everything is solved. We've got some major things that we are still shifting and navigating. But I will tell you, without looking back on this last year, we would not even be considering some of the things that we have been considering with some of our buildings and what we desire to do with those buildings and just the trajectory and the changes that we desire in our life. So just consider what can happen in just a year. And when I really think about who Arin and Tony were just a year ago, speaking for myself, but I'm sure Tony would attest to this as well, we were pretty beat down. We were working through some pretty tough stuff, some deep inner work that, when you look back on it, you think, God, I was such a train wreck emotionally. But it wasn't even that it was anything that big or that crazy, but it felt crazy. It felt heavy. And for so many of you, you've listened to my podcast, you know, the stories that I've shared, and you've heard about me speak about having a 55-hour birth with Leo, 2 infections, having postpartum depression, anxiety, contemplating suicide. And I don't say that lightly, but I'm just going to throw it in there. And having another babe, like literally, 21 months later, and I had like the most beautiful water birth. Somewhere in there, we built a custom house. We had to sell it back to our builder literally 42 days after being in that home. Just the train wreck unfolded itself on just how this home wasn't built correctly. Learning that it was never inspected by our city, that's a whole nother deal. And it took me fighting like hell for 8 months to get the builder to purchase back that home. Just FYI, we literally live 1 street over from where that house is today. And you want to know who still lives in that house? The builder. So every time the wind is really obnoxious here in Indiana, I'm like, that roof is going to come off because P.S. it was only nailed on. It wasn't affixed with the proper, I'm not even going to know, not joists, but with the proper hangers that you're supposed to hang a shed style roof, but that's a whole nother deal. And it's his problem now, not mine. Oh, and in that whole process, we decided to build another house because, that's really cool. And then the pandemic hit. And that's where I want to pick up here today. So honestly, looking back on all those situations, I could do everything again. Honest to God, would I want to? No. But I could navigate those situations again, except the pandemic. That pandemic, and this is where I want to go with this podcast today. I want to talk into the struggle into freedom, what freedom means, and why freedom is so important in this day and age, and why you need to take personal responsibility for your freedom. So think about this. When the pandemic hit, it was chaos. Nobody knew exactly what was going on. You had all these conspiracy people saying things that now I'm like, dang, they really weren't conspiracy theories. Now, not all of them, but just roll with me on this. And we didn't know what we didn't know, right? And I'm very like, okay, what's the better for humanity? What do we got to do to love thy neighbor? That's where my head went like, oh crap. And I remember I told my mom, this is not a big deal. This is nothing. And obviously it turned into something, but did it, right? So many things. And I don't want to get into pointing fingers and doing this stuff here, but I want you to objectively roll with me on this. So be flexible right now because I know you are, and I know you can objectively look back and go, dang, would I have done things the way I did given the opportunity, which, dear God, I hope we never have this opportunity, but just hang with me on that statement because who knows. So listen, owning a personal training facility, small group, one-on-one personal training facility, and we had multiple corporate contracts that we would go on site and teach boot camps. We had multiple employees, and all of a sudden you are told as a small business that you had to shut down, that you had to shut down your business, that people could no longer come into your facility, could no longer take care of themselves, could no longer get the stress, the frustration, the angst out of their body, the routine that they had been in for, who knows, 10, 12, 13 years, cut off, right? So of course, like any good business owner, we pivoted, we did the best we could. We absolutely provided workouts for our clients. We got on Zoom and that was god awful, but you know what? We did it, right? because we wanted to keep our clients in a routine. We knew not only from their health, but from their mental standpoint, they needed to see that consistent face that they saw week after week after week, multiple times, because there's a whole lot that goes into that. But think about this. I want you to think about this. In that time and space where small businesses had to shut down, who else was open? Who was open? Liquor stores, right? Because COVID doesn't exist in liquor stores. Restaurants. Restaurants were open, or at least to get takeout. Okay. Grocery stores were open. Walmart was open. Meijer was open. COVID doesn't exist there. Is that real? Now, one could think that we're really just that stupid, right? Like, okay, we're going to shut down all these small businesses, but you can still go to a liquor store. You can still go to your beloved donut shop down the street. That PS only takes cash. And let me speak into that for just a hot second. I posted on Facebook my frustration about how a local donut shop could stay open when I had to shut my business down. How is that fair? Is that fair? If you were to objectively step back and go, no, Arin, really, that's kind of weird. And it is weird, right? Like super weird. I thought it was weird at the time. So I took to social media like some good abiding citizen would do, and I posted my frustration. Do you know what that got me? That got me a client threatening to cancel their membership, unsubscribed from our email list, and blocked me on Facebook. Now, granted, this was one person, and we can laugh now, but at the moment I was like, dang, what did I do? Like, first off, I don't ever want to upset a client. That was not my intention. My frustration was, okay, this is how I feed my babies. This is how we produce income for our family. These are the people that we serve, and we continue to help them better themselves, their health. What gives? Why was that post so frustrating? Because, just side note, that person worked for a large corporation and they were still getting a paycheck and just had to sit at home. Okay. So just objectively look at that situation. The other interesting thing is when we decided, we just decided, we went rogue and we opened up our business, right? Like we were so frustrated with what was going on. We were looking around going, this doesn't make sense. And we decided to just open up and we said, you know what, clients, anyone that feels comfortable and wants to come in, cool, here's what we're still going to offer on Zoom. And so we made it the choice of the people. Hey, we're going to just open up. And we were like, who's coming around and monitoring this anyways? Nobody, right? And so we went rogue, whatever, and we opened up our business and said, hey, whoever feels comfortable, come on in. And man, that was one of the most eerie situations ever, because you were sitting there going, okay, I don't want to put anyone in danger. That was definitely not our point and purpose, but we had to keep things going. People were frustrated. I remember leaving the lights off because then maybe you wouldn't see that we were in there, right? And we have all these windows, so it was still light enough that you could, work out and see what you're doing. And I remember one of our this was a longtime client that we knew from a big box gym. He emailed us and he said, hey guys, working out is my sanity. It's my identity. It's my life. And if you knew this person, like he was that gym rat, right? That was always in the gym. He didn't even come to our training facility. He still went to the big box gym that we used to work at. And he emailed us and he said, hey, what are you guys doing right now? And I was like, hey, come on in. I go, come on in. We'll set you up a package and just please work out. Just please work out. And he was so thankful. This is a person who came off of surviving cancer, who was getting ready to retire. And he was like, I need this for my sanity. So you found ways around it, right? Because what else were you going to do in those moments? There were so many moral questions that we had. And so many of what I felt got violated was our freedoms. Now, Catch 22, I am not about putting people in danger. That is not what this message is about. But at the time, we didn't know what we didn't know, right? And I'll never forget too, when you were actually technically able to open up, you had all these mandates around how many people could be in your facility, which PS, we have 7,000 square feet. We have 2 5-ton HVAC systems. We have a 4-ton HVAC system in this 7,000 square feet and fans running and garage doors open. So airflow was the best you could possibly get. And here's the deal. Clients would come in and work out without a mask unless they wanted, but we required our staff to wear a mask. Like, does that make sense to anybody? And at the time I was like, we're just trying to keep people happy. We're just trying to follow the rules and keep people happy. But when you objectively look at it, like, what? And the cool thing is we were able to space people out and it was fine. But I look back at that time and I wish that I would have spoke up more. So my point in saying all this is I wish I would have stepped out of my own scenario and been like, dude, this doesn't make sense. I personally kept my head in the sand and I decided in this time and space, it was like, you know what, we got to work harder on ourselves and need to stay focused. And to some extent, that was a good thing. But now I'm ready to speak out and be proud of who I am and to speak into the freedoms that all of us have. It's why we live in this country. Okay. So another thing that came out in this time and space, and hang with me on this topic, is there was a huge narrative around body positivity and showing very morbidly obese women and calling it body positivity. Now, here is the deal. I am not here to shame anyone at any size, okay? But what I'm here to speak into is that woman, I promise you, does not feel good. I promise you she is at higher risk for disease. I promise you that her joints ache. I promise you that day-to-day living is challenging. Going up and down stairs is challenging. Okay? This doesn't mean that she needs to shame herself. This doesn't mean that she needs to feel bad about herself. But what we need to speak into is that we need to love ourselves no matter where we're at. But it is not okay to glorify when someone is unhealthy. Okay? When someone is not taking care of themselves. And so you can argue with me all which ways on this. I am not body shaming. I want women to feel good about themselves at any size, but I also want her to recognize that, hey, this isn't healthy. This isn't okay. But just remember and get the blinders off. Who's putting this narrative out there? Okay? They want you to be unhealthy. They want you to eat garbage. Why are some foods in the United States of America okay to eat and in other countries they're banned? Think about all the dyes that are in some of the candies and popular kids' foods that in other countries it doesn't exist, or cereals, right? So just remember, the US doesn't even bother to worry about some of this stuff. Find that interesting? I do. They want you reliant on medicines. Now, I am not against modern medicine. I am thankful for modern medicine. I'm thankful for the technology that we have today and the innovation. But I don't buy into being reliant when you can do very, very simple things to better your quality of life. Again, not against big pharma. I'm very thankful for the research and the scientists and everything that goes into having these miraculous drugs that do help people. But I am against, again, this narrative that, oh, here we're going to come in and save everyone. And here's all these medicines. I mean, my favorite one right now is the drug that is actually for diabetes, and everyone's using it for weight loss because it curbs your appetite. Just recognize, guys, what's happening. They want you on this drug. They want you reliant on something, when in reality, you could just do this on your own, okay? So this is why I'm bringing this message here today, because I want us to wake up. I needed to wake up, and I'm thankful that I am awake and that I'm alive, and I want women to be free. I want us to love ourselves. I want you to love who you see in the mirror. I want you to be kind to your body. So many times I hear women say they hate this or hate that about their body. Okay, listen, that body has carried you this far. That body has birthed multiple babes. That body has fought disease. That body has gone lengths to be there for you. Be grateful for this body. Only one you get, okay? It's a vessel. It's to be taken care of, okay? And so here's the deal. You may not be happy with exactly how your body looks and feels today, but honor that body. Do good things for that body. Take care of her, okay? I want you to have faith, and I want you to believe in God, believe in the universe, believe in you, okay? I want you to understand that you were miraculously made, and you are in control of more than you realize. Cannot doubt that there is a higher power that surrounds all of us, whatever you call that higher power. Obviously, I am very Christian. I believe in God, and I believe in the God within us. I believe that our bodies are temples, that we are to take care of this body. And the power that you have inside of you is just the coolest thing, okay? You can achieve anything you want, literally anything, anything. Get taught limitation. And I want to help set you free. If this podcast is just what you needed to go, oh, dang, Arin is spitting the truth today, I want you to understand what's lurking inside of you. Is it doubt? Is it fear? Okay, so here's the deal. If you don't take care of you, all of this boils inside of us. You stay scared. You're fearful. You have self-doubt. And I know this because I was there. I was there for a hot minute. I used to drink a 6-pack a night just to calm down and just to escape. Then I turned into, it wasn't just a glass of wine. It was like the whole bottle. Because, if you don't down the bottle, it's not going to taste good tomorrow. Or at least that's what I told myself. So hopefully you're laughing. Now, everyone has a thing, right? For me, it was alcohol. And today I'm very, very thankful to have a way better relationship with alcohol and be able to consume in moderation, and life is good. Food has never been a deal for me, but maybe it is for you. So I want you to recognize what food is for you. Is it an escape? Is it trying to comfort? What are you looking for when it comes to the food? Should you know? Because everyone has a thing. When it comes to overeating or over-consuming, whether it's alcohol, drugs, food, or even exercise. I mean, I have definitely known people who just way over-exercise to the point that it isn't healthy for them. Everything in moderation is fine. It's finding that balance. And it's understanding, what is this food doing or not doing for you, or drug or alcohol, right? And so today, I want you to realize that you are the creator of your destiny. We underestimate what we can do in a year, and we overestimate what we can do in a day. Anyone make those eternal checklists that you never ever could complete in a day, like I do, right? And I've gotten to the point now where I either make a 3 or a 5 list, because that's what could get done. And most times, if I'm being honest with myself, I get 3 things off of that list done. But here's the cool thing. Those 3 things will move the needle forward. But all of us I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I mean, any other woman out there run themselves ragged trying to accomplish, Mount Everest in a day, right? Okay. so I'm the only one. But what we underestimate is what can actually accomplish in a year. When I look back over a year, just the growth that I've seen in my own business, just the growth I've seen in us personally, the growth in your kiddos. That's probably one of the prime examples. Like a year ago, my son wasn't reading. Now he is reading. Like, how cool is that? Just thinking about what Livia talks about and does now, it's just wild because I'm like, oh my God, you're a little human. Like just the conversation that she has with me is way different. But think about that in yourself. Like, what could you accomplish in a year should you set your mind to it? So I want you to consider going from struggle into freedom. And what would that look like for you? Start painting this picture today of here's what I want. What do you desire? Put it down on paper because I promise you will underestimate what can get accomplished in just a year. Okay? And then what I want you to do is I want you to relentlessly show up every single day for yourself. What can you do that's kind for you? What can you do that's loving, that's noble, that's just, that is supportive for you? Okay? That is a scripture in Philippians that I go back to almost every day. Anytime that I'm struggling and I'm frustrated, I go back to that scripture. That scripture pulled me out of some of the darkest days when I was contemplating that I didn't even want to be here anymore. And that was when I was heavily struggling post Leo's birth and just not understanding how to be a mom. Why was I alone? Why was no one helping me? Which I didn't ask for help. So let's just be real. Okay. I put on the front that I was fine, that everything was okay. And I know what I would do differently there. But focus on what is good in your life. There's a lot of good things that are going on. This is one of the very first things that I do on a coaching call with my clients is we go around the call and we talk about what can we celebrate? What's going well? And I know the women that are struggling, it stirs them for a hot minute and it makes them uncomfortable because they're just over here in struggle and frustration, but it forces them to go, you know what? I actually did my steps really well this week. Or you know what? I'm really proud of the food choices that I made. Or you know what? I really leaned into a lesson that was helpful for me. So to pull this podcast all together here today is you're going to see a shift. You're going to see a shift in my content. My content is going to pull from struggle and go into freedom. Freedom in your health, freedom in your mind, freedom in your body, in your spirit. Freedom exists. Now, we have to protect those freedoms. And as women, we have to recognize what is going on in our world and what is happening that is going to impact our babes. Okay? We can't stay silent. We have to speak. We have to speak truth. And it's not to be over here, being these conspiracy theorists or being these like rebel rousers. It's speaking truth, right? And understanding and being intelligent enough to decipher what's real, what's not real. And you can take this message any flippin' way you want to take it. But this is our job as women to step up, to speak up, and to be proud of who we are. You'll never regret taking care of yourself. When you have your health, you literally can do anything. When you feel good in your own skin, you can do anything. When you walk into that room and you own it. And here's the deal. I'm just going to be honest. Like when a woman walks into a room, or a man, but when you walk into the room and you are in physically good health, people look at you differently. When you're not in good health, people look at you differently. I'm just going to put it out there. And it's not to be judgy McJudgy pants over here, but people look at you differently. Have you ever had someone prejudge you or say something to you that you're like, dude, they're saying that because of how I look? I've had that happen. I have had people call me out as a person in fitness who wasn't in good shape. I had been drinking my face off, eating all the things, and I had put weight on. It wasn't even post the kids, right? Like, I couldn't even blame it on them. Like, it was 100% my doing, being stressed out, being frustrated. I could blame it on anything I want, but it was mine. And I'm thankful that that person called me out, but man, did that sting. It stings. But it truly made me go, click, light bulb on. Okay, girl, let's go. Okay, because I fed myself all kinds of stories as to why I couldn't lose weight. Hormones were jacked, this and that. I was in and out of doctor's office. All they wanted to do was give me antidepressants. And listen, I just needed to take care of myself. That's all it was. At the end of the day, I needed to get focused on the right movement that was supportive for my body. I needed to nourish my body well. I needed to stop drinking as heavily as I was, right? And everything in moderation. So, women, this message is for you today. Let's move into freedom. Let's be free. Free in your own mind. Be free in your own body. All right. As always, I love hearing how this one sits. I love your messages that you send me. You can hit me up on any social medias. All my social medias are Arin, spelled Arin, and last name Lindauer, Lindauer. And also, if you haven't joined my private Facebook group called Infinite Women, it is weight loss and confidence for professional women. That group is amazing and alive. I think we just ticked over 1,800 folks in that group. And that's where I spit a ton of content. I post recipes, just helpful tips, Mindset Mondays. And it's a really active group of very professional women who are like, you know what, let's do this. Let's get after this. So thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned for more talk about the freedom inside of you. The freedom we will then project to this world. Let's get them.